Hello and welcome to episode 6 of the Portadown Preview Show. I'm Neil, and alongside me, as always, I have the man widely tipped to be the next James Bond, Dave Wiggins. Dave, how are you?
Very well, Neil. That's supposed to be kept under wraps for another while, by the way, but I suppose it's out now, so yeah, I'm definitely in contention for that.
Daniel Craig's long-term heir. Joining us today, we're delighted to have Stephen Crawford. Stephen is the senior sports reporter for the newsletter. Stephen, thanks for joining us. How are you keeping?
Not too bad, thanks, Neil, and thanks very much for the invitation. I've been looking forward to this now for the last week here, so I'm all excited to get going here.
I hear you're a podcast professional now, Stephen.
Well, I've 2 under my belt now, so yeah, I think I'm a veteran at this now.
This is your second one today, isn't it?
That's the second one today. If only I was getting paid for them, I'd be quids in, like, you know.
I know. You better give the Coleraine one a good plug there. What's that called?
It's just a Coleraine FC official podcast. We started there last week, and the second episode should be due out this Friday. We've got Evan Tweed on, our midfielder, doing a bit of a Q&A and just joining in the banter with the lads. So, if anybody wants to listen, I think it's great seeing all these different streams of the media coming out, all the guys at the clubs throughout the Irish League.
Yeah, definitely. Good stuff. I listened last week. It was good. So I'll get a listen on Friday as well.
Good stuff.
Hopefully in your next show next week, you'll not be talking about Coleraine beating Portadown. Hopefully it'll be the other way around.
It'll be a sad one. Just hopefully the match is on. Like, I know you guys have had a bit of a depressing since last Tuesday. No action.
No action.
Well, I think that's the perfect place to start then. The P word, postponements. So, Dave,
is that the P word? Is that the P word?
Oh, well, I said postponements. So Dave, Dungannon on Saturday then postponed. Tippy was not happy, and I don't blame him. What's your thoughts?
He totally lost it. That's my thoughts. He was not a happy fella on Saturday by all accounts. And do you know what? I went up to get a few buns, and I went up past Shamrock Park as you do, and had a wee look, and it was wet, but it wasn't bad, and then it wasn't really due to be raining the rest of the day, and there was no major patches on the pitch or anything like that, but it got called off anyway, and that was that, I think, but Matthew did an interview with Adrian Logan, and he was absolutely raging. Now, thankfully by the end of it he was having a bit of a giggle with Adrian, and I saw on his wife's Instagram a wee bit later that she'd given him a wee glass of wine at about 2:00 just to settle him down. So I think he was all right after that.
I think, do you know what? I love a good managerial rant. I always think they're very entertaining when it's so passionate, and they're right in the zone about it as well. I thought it was really entertaining. It kind of reminded me of, do you remember Charlie Austin's rant last year when he was playing at Southampton? Was it the year before, actually? And he went off him on about a goal being disallowed, and that's what it reminded me of. But you can see his point. I mean, from his perspective, he thought the game should have been played. And I'm sure the players were immeasurably disappointed on both sides. Both teams that it was called off. Stephen, there's been, what's the word I'm looking for? There's been a lot of commotion about the postponements this season. Obviously the fixture list, it's brimming, and there's games coming thick and fast. What's your thoughts on it? I mean, you can see why Matthew Tipton was very annoyed about it, because the fixture list, it's stockpiling. There's games need to be played, and it did sort of seem like it was maybe called off a wee bit too easy. Now, I'm not a grounds for myself, so I'm not an expert, but what's your thoughts on that and the fixture list throughout the season here?
Yeah, they're definitely going to be a big, obviously February's been pretty hectic as it is, and it seems like it's going to carry on now into March and possibly into April with teams, with a real backlog of fixtures. I was surprised too, because obviously Tippy's at the ground and he sees it. I think he's the sort of manager that calls it as it is. If he didn't think it was playable, he would say that, you know what I mean? And whenever a pitch is frozen, it's a different case because you don't know how quickly it's going to thaw. But whenever it was so early on and it was wet, and you had a few hours late, and I'm sure the groundsman would have worked on it, and it was only one area of the pitch, it surprised me that it was called off, But I think you're going to run into a scenario Glenavon. Sorry to bring up Glenavon on the Portland podcast, but as Gary Hamilton was saying last week, we were playing double headers. You're playing the same team. Like they played Carrick Rangers on Tuesday, and then on Saturday again. And I always think that's a difficult scenario to get into, because playing the same team straight after each other is not good, because to try and get 2-1s out of that game is very difficult.
Yeah, that's us next week, by the way. We've not next week, week after, we've Glenavon twice at home. Yeah. Twice at home, which is a very strange thing. Mm-hmm. You were saying about a wet area of the pitch. Matthew made it very clear that, and he used this term, and Johnny Dunlop tweeted it today. I think Johnny wants it to be the new club motto, as Dave picks a new club motto, but Johnny says, he said, it wasn't even a corner of the pitch, it was just the corner quadrant. So if anybody knows what a quadrant is, then I don't know. I think it's the little semicircle triangle at the corner flag, possibly, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit like a Dairy League triangle, isn't it?
That's it. So I think it was just a bit sticky, really. Yeah. It's always a wee bit muddy, just right on that corner, but it's like an area of the pitch where it doesn't really affect the game too much.
Also going to get a lot of traffic during the match,
Yeah. I think it was also disappointing because, whether we like it or not, Dungannon are one of our main rivals this year. So, we had built up to, that was, we'd beaten Dungannon at Stangmore Park in December, I think 3-0. One of our only 2 victories so far this season. So I think having them at Shamrock Park, I think we all probably thought it was a good chance to put 3 points between us and them. And as it turned out, it wasn't,
And obviously there's scenarios there whenever you maybe go to play that game again, you could have players suspended or injured, compared to the side that you would have out last Saturday. Yeah. So all these factors come into play.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Well, this is it. With regards to the suspensions, Greg Hall was going to be suspended for it. So, and then that was going to be then pushed back to the Larne game, but then it obviously got postponed as well. So it does have that knock-on effect. Regards to the match on Tuesday night against Larne, I saw the pictures of the pitch, like it did look pretty bad all around. That area was hit pretty bad with the rain. I don't really think there could be any complaints there. But saying that, no games for Portadown over the weekend there and last night. It's resulted in us actually moving up a place because of the goal difference. So last night, without even kicking a ball, it was actually a decent night for Portadown because Carrick lost, as did Dungannon. So, Stephen, with regards there now being no relegation, what do you think that means for the clubs in and around them? Do you think it takes a weight off the shoulders? Can they express themselves a bit more? Or do you find some teams might take their foot off the gas?
Funny, I was talking to Tippy that day up the showgrounds, and that the news broke that week about it, and like how he sort of viewed the situation. And obviously there is that immediate pressure is gone now. You're not going to go down, but he says that he's still going to be putting the pressure on the players because they've got their futures to play for. So that from his perspective, he wants them to go out and not to be, thinking, oh, we're safe here, boys. But in some ways, I think it'll help teams maybe go and express themselves a bit more. You know what I mean? There's no pressure there, so just go out and play a game of football. Whereas when you're down at the bottom, there's that tension there, especially in the last, say 10 games. If you're stuck down there and need results, then you could, players aren't going to play with that freedom.
Yeah, definitely. And listen, Tuesday, obviously, about 2 hours before the pitch inspection, it had been raining the whole night and the whole morning, but then all of a sudden it was tropical. About 2 hours before the pitch inspection, for a good half an hour, it was properly bouncing and at that stage, I turned him away for both working at home, was like, there's another day ruined, no football tonight as well, to which I got a good tut, things are more important than football. But, because we're getting loads of football at the minute, Saturdays and Tuesdays, when it doesn't happen, on Saturday, was very frustrating, and then to not have the match played on Tuesday night, because of the rain, it was just kind of frustrating, but it was good. And it's an interesting one, Stephen, because obviously Coleraine are flying at the minute. What is it? 8 wins and 3 draws out of 11.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you guys are literally within touching distance, really, of the top now. I'm sure you don't want to talk it up too much, but when you're sitting, Coleraine, couple of good wins, Linfield drew, did they?
Yeah, Linfield were beat on Tuesday night by
Linfield were
Glentoran.
beaten Tuesday night, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And what happened, Lauren, Tuesday night?
Lauren was called off.
You're about to play us.
Oh, that's right.
The lack of football has affected your brain. You're suffering from ball hittings.
But all of a sudden, Coleraine have climbed there, and they're in third place, but 5 points off the top, and without playing matches, basically Carrick Rangers have now played their 2 games in hand over us, and they've got the same points as us.
Mm-hmm.
And Dungannon have the same points, but they've actually played a game more. So kind of both teams have strengthened their positions over the last while,
Yeah, it's been quite a turnaround, because obviously November, start of December, they were in a terrible run. They had 4 defeats on the spin, and they didn't even score a goal in that stage. And you were starting to fear a wee bit, but at that stage, Stephen Douglas was having to play every week with a bit of a centre back crisis. And Big Dougie's a fantastic player, and he's been a great servant to the club. But I think when you're having to ask him play every week, it's when you're 43 years old, it's tough.
He's 43, is he?
43,
I thought he was 41. Right?
So no, fair play to him. He came in and he did a great shift. You know what I mean? But now you get the numbers back, and as you say, it's 11 unbeaten with 8 wins. And at one stage, the top 3 looked gone. Like Crusaders, Larne, and Linfield, it looked as if it was a 3-horse race.
Yeah.
But they've hit a wee bit of a wobble, all 3 of them, and it's really opened things up now.
Yeah, and then I hate to say it, but there's teams in the league that you don't mind at all. Like, I don't mind the Coleraines of this world, but when you start talking about Glentoran climbing up the table again, it makes me a bit more uncomfortable. But there you have the Glens. It was the Glens who beat Linfield the other night. Yeah. And when you have them climbing up the table there, I think they're going to be in the mix before too long as well. And it's actually starting to heat up, isn't it? And get interesting at the top there. And it's interesting for us at the bottom as well. But, it's you can see the teams there, although I suppose the difference, listen, Coleraine are a provincial team, and, to be close to the top of the table and to win silverware, in my mind, is like Portadown. It's much more special than the Linfields of this world winning anything. But how far do you think Coleraine can go this season?
I think this is a very, very strange season. Not to be jumping like everybody else is saying, it's a season no other. But realistically, you don't know how it's going to pan out. If things take a turn, it could be called at any time. So it's important to get as many points on the board. But there's a real momentum with the team now. And funny, I was saying earlier to the boys, they look back to their old way. When Oran had them playing well there last season, where they're very hard to beat, and when they go in front, they don't look like losing, and that's always a good sign. And it all comes down to hard work, and that's throughout the whole team. And they don't really look like conceding a lot of goals, which is just promising.
Yeah, and I suppose the big difference is, Linfield are 1 step away from being full time. Crusaders are 3/4. Larne, Glentoran, full time, whereas Coleraine are right in there with a part time squad.
Yeah, and I think especially at the moment, it's very, very applicable, because the guys at Coleraine that's running part time, when you're playing Saturday, Tuesday, you don't have any time in the training pitch. And I know a lot of the part time clubs aren't doing any training at the moment, because the time they come in on the Thursday night, it's just a recovery session. So you're not getting that same 2 nights a week to work with players. But if you're full time, you're bringing the guys the next day doing a bit of recovery. Then you've got the next day, and the next day they build on for the weekend. So fair play to them. I think any team that's challenging the full time teams at the minute deserve a lot of credit.
Yeah. Is there anything in particular that's been clicking over the last while that wasn't clicking? I've noticed. So obviously, Coleraine came to Shamrock Park in November, maybe, was it?
Yeah, it was one of the earlier games. Yeah.
Beat us 3-0. I was very impressed that day. I thought Glacken was excellent, took us apart. But he didn't seem to do it then for a number of matches after that. But even when you look at the last couple of matches, and even the match against us recently at the showgrounds there, I thought him and Alan were kind of, I don't know if they've developed a wee thing where, Glacken knows where he's going, and maybe Curtis knows where the ball's going to end up. There seems to be a bit of that anyway.
Yeah, definitely. Jamie's one of those players that can win a game on his own, you know what I mean? And it's when he's on it, you know what I mean? And but I think defensively, as I was saying there, we're not conceding silly goals. We're during that run where we lost 4 games this spin. It seemed to be we were giving away a lot of silly goals, and obviously then we weren't converting on it at the other end. So really, the whole team's just got clicked together, and I think now Curtis Allen's come into a wee bit of form as well. He's getting a run in the team and bagged a brace on Tuesday night. So hopefully he's got a few more in there to come.
Yeah. Neil, do you want Dave picks a new club motto? Is this a good time for it, do you think?
It's always a good time for it. Crack on. Go for it.
Tell the truth. You don't seem that excited. Well, I was gonna go for the corner quadrant. Stephen, as far as I'm aware, Portadown doesn't have a club motto, right? Does Coleraine?
No, we don't know.
You know what I mean? One of those nice Latin ones underneath your badge, like. So I was going to go for one of the corners is a bit heavy. That was going to be the motto this week, but I've decided on it never rains but it pours. Okay, and it never rains but it pours in Latin is a non plurit e sic fundit, which sounds like this. Okay, I'm going to do that one more time. So that's Dave picks the new club motto. It never rains but it pours. I think that's a good motto for this week. Fair enough.
Quite philosophical as well, like, you know.
Absolutely.
I think it's very apt for Portadown. Do you know what I mean?
In all aspects, yeah.
What?
I was only thinking about the week past, but I think you're absolutely right.
See there, obviously, we've been talking about kits over the last few weeks. You're wearing the 2008-9 Hummel home shirt.
Wearing it very well.
Is that a particular favourite of yours?
Well, firstly, it's from 11 or 12 years ago, and it's a medium, and it's cutting the armpits out of me. And if I stood up, which I'm not going to do, my belly would be hanging underneath it, but it looks okay from the chest up. Listen, that season in the championship was actually a great season. You know, it was good crack. We went to places we'd never gone before, which is always fun. And, you know, we had a good squad of players. We kept most of the same players who we had in the Premiership. We won the League Cup that year. You know, we won the championship last game of the season down at Donegal Celtic. It was actually a really enjoyable year. And I think a lot of fans kind of, even though we got relegated and that was crap, it turned into a bit of an enjoyable season and quite a successful one. So I think a lot of us have a wee fondness for this little Hummel number, especially the old V's down the arms. But
yeah, I agree with you. I really like that kit. Same for the away kit that year. It was just the reverse, only it was white. It was a lovely kit. Speaking of kits, we'll plug the yellow shirt in a minute. But can you guess who I have on the back of this beauty?
Feeney, Colin Feeney.
Incorrect. He played a pivotal part in the season that you've worn the kit for. I'll give you one more shout.
Gary McCutcheon. Go on then. Big John Convery. Tra-la-la-la-la.
If you knew he was going up front, you knew Portadown were in dire straits at that point. But yes, as always, 6th week running, we want the yellow away kit for next season, so make it happen, please.
That'll do. Did you not say you were going to tie that shirt into something to do? Oh, it was something to do with this year, was it? I thought you'd said to Stephen before we came on here you were going to tie it into something he said, but you were talking about our championship season, were you?
No, it wasn't about our own kit. It was about because Stephen was talking about Coleraine, and it was just as somebody that like has a real passion for like the shirts and stuff, and I sort of have a shirt OCD. The other week when Coleraine were playing against Ballymena, and Coleraine wore blue, but yet when they played Portadown, who playing red, they wore white. I was just like, I can't fathom how I just can't fathom that. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yep. No,
sometimes I think that comes down to whether the kit man can be bothered cleaning the lighter kit.
True. When we get the kits at the start of the season, there was a bit of debate about whether it was going to be blue top, white shorts, blue socks, or all blue. And there was people, they had a foot in both camps. But I think an executive decision was made it was going to be blue, white, blue, and then the reverse for the away kit. But Yeah, I don't understand why we wore white against a team in red. That's a bit of a baffler there. Must have been marketing reasons.
I would say sometimes
it's the blue on blue. I hate
Yeah.
that. And then
Yeah.
Arsenal have started doing it the past couple of years, and I'm just like, why are we wearing blue against teams in blue? I can't have it. I don't like it.
listen, there'll be no Arsenal chat on this podcast. Thank you very much.
So speaking of the team there, the Korean had a bit of a kit clash. Ballymena. Stephen, what do you make of them this season? They're obviously in a bit of a bad run at the minute, but for me personally, they're in the round where I thought they would be. What's your take on Ballymena this season?
Yeah, it's funny with Ballymena because obviously they got off to a great start. They beat us in the first game of the season and played very well that night up at the showgrounds. Then they had a few defeats and then they went off on a great run up until the league stopped there at Christmas time. And since then, they seem to have lost all form. I think they've lost 5 in the bounce now.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's something to do with your big guy, Kieran Kelly, going back to Bohemians. He seemed to be a real linchpin at the back for them. And or it could just be lack of form because they've a side packed full of quality players, obviously, like Shea McCartan and people like that there. But I think Leroy Miller's a big miss for him. You know, he's that box-to-box midfielder, plenty of running him, and him but out injured. It's they miss somebody. They do his job, like, you know.
Yeah, is he out injured at the minute?
He's out at the minute, like, you know, and I think Johnny Addis is out as well, and Steve McCulloch. So those are 3 players that they would have relied on in the last couple of years.
Yeah, so we're playing Ballymena at home on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on commentary with young Neil McCafferty, comes from the Foyle, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm looking forward to that. But they came to Shamrock Park earlier in the season. We drew 0-0 with them. We probably rode our luck a little bit, but defended very well. Paddy McNally got a season-ending injury in that match, and Adam McCallum came in for the first time again. But we defended really, really well without maybe putting them under too much pressure up front. But Saturday, you know, so incidentally, I was looking at there. They've lost their last 5, but they've all been in February, and they seem to be doing okay in December and January. And then literally, as soon as it's gone to February, they've lost 5 games in a row. And when you look at the form table, I've got the wee the wee app on your phone, whatever it is, Flash Score. You can hit form over the last 5 games, and they're bottom of the table. They're absolutely woeful going into it, you know. Which has to give us some kind of confidence, really. Can we go one better and maybe score a goal or 2 and beat them at Shamrock Park on Saturday? I think we can. We're playing okay. You know, we've taken points off bigger teams, Coleraine, Larne. So there's no reason going into Saturday why we can't do that. But interestingly enough, a courier called at my door today with this. And when I looked on the back, it said, Sender David Jeffrey, Ballymena. I haven't opened it yet, so I just want to see what's in it. There's a wee note here. It says he should never have been sent off. And there's this here. I don't know. So apparently this is Jordan Williamson's shin pad. Is that right, Stephen? Have you seen this before?
Yeah, I think Big DJ was quite keen to show everybody the shin pad.
Yeah.
That night up at the showgrounds.
Hashtag Irish League behaviour. It's honestly one of the best things that I've seen this season. I couldn't actually believe my eyes when he whipped the shin pad out.
I know. I think the thing about that night was that you know, probably about 10 minutes before, he had a similar challenge in James McLaughlin, and he had to go off, like, you know. So I think it's impossible to tell when said shin pad was broken.
You know what? Fair play to the lad Williamson. He ran 40 yards and dived into the challenge, you know. And I know he didn't hurt the player in that particular instance. But flip me, you can't, you know, it's not 1963. You can't be running 40 yards and 2 foot diving into a tackle like that.
That's it. And I know a lot of people said he played the ball, but the problem is if he didn't play the ball, he was just going to wipe everything from him. But
absolutely. Whenever David held the shin pad up, obviously, you know, the lad had his maybe like a grandparent's photograph printed it.
Yeah.
To be fair, the shin guard looked like it was made out of of cardboard.
I know, and it was about this big.
Anyway, I'm thinking about getting DJ to sign this on Saturday and maybe auction it off for charity or something.
I'm sure the big man would do that, like,
Maybe we'll see. I don't know. I'll maybe just be cautious about
maybe
that.
do it before the game.
But there you go. There's an example of another outstanding managerial ramp full of passion.
Yeah. And he kept a straight face. I couldn't believe he kept a straight face.
It was a priceless moment. But that's the thing, you're talking about David Jeffrey, you can never, ever write off any of his teams. And, even though they are on a really bad run of form at the minute, you can never write them off because they are that sort of team that can show up and, do a lot of damage, on their day. So I think Portadown are in for a very tough game on Saturday here, and fingers crossed Portadown can get the win because, we said it before, it's all well and good, drawing with Coleraine away, drawing with Larne away, drawing with Crusaders, but Portadown really need to start getting some wins on the board here because I know the games are coming thick and fast, but you don't want to be coming into the split and it's sort of like, you really need to be winning all your games. You'd like to go in with a wee bit of a leeway, hopefully anyway. The splits actually, I was looking at this earlier on. If it goes the way I think it will with the split, regards the teams that will be down there, Portadown would actually have a fair few home games after the split.
Yeah, a lot of our first matches we only had a couple of matches at home out of maybe the first 6 or 7.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting with relegation, like we talked about, Stephen. Relegation isn't an issue there, and players, I think young lads especially, can go out and play with freedom, and you're almost preparing for next season, really.
Yeah.
Whereas we're not getting relegated, but we don't want to finish bottom because basically putting it out there, we don't want Glenavon fans saying Portadown should have been relegated that season. That's what it boils down to for me.
Yeah.
So finishing 10th is good, 11th is okay. You do not want to finish 12th. But the other end of the table, those teams do have pressure because if you want to go on and win the league, then you got to keep your momentum up and you got to really, irrelevant of no supporters being in and everything that's going on and getting tested on a Thursday. If you have the heart and desire to win the league, then you got to keep up your effort and your momentum the whole way.
That's it. And I think what's been key over the last month or so was the rotation of players, and it's something Oran seems to have done very well at the club at the minute. Is that he's pulled players out when they need a rest and brought the rest of the squad players in, and it's so crucial. I've never before really seen that in Irish League where you've had rotation. Usually, if you have your starting 11, unless you are one of the, like say, likes of Linfield, who have a massive squad, where you can do that every week. But the likes of the rest of us, always your best 11, and the rest of the guys are on the bench.
That's right. Back in the day when we were winning league titles under Ronnie, he only really had 16 players every season.
Yeah.
And you're looking at teams now like, Larnes and Glentorrans who've got like 32, 33 man squads, first team squads too, so it is all change, isn't it? We're moving into the future of the Irish League, I think.
This is it.
We're just hoping not to get left behind too far.
No, well, it's going to be an interesting few years, like that's for sure.
I was up at the showgrounds for our match there recently, and I was talking to Simon, one of your directors, who was saying that Coleraine are moving hopefully towards a 4G pitch in the next while. Is that something you think fans would go for, or obviously the pitch struggles a wee bit at the showgrounds at times? Yeah,
unfortunately, it's just been one of those things that's maybe held the team back, but maybe that's the wrong turn of phrase. I think the team always seem to play better on a good service, because they do like to get the ball down and move it quickly. But Oran was always a great advocate of trying to get it in, and obviously it's a revenue stream as well. For clubs that you see the likes of Cliftonville and Crusaders, it's helped them over the last few years. So there's big redevelopment plans for the whole stadium, and that's part of it. So hopefully we'll get some movement in Stormont eventually, and see some of this money being drawn down to clubs, because there's clubs out there really need it. So there's.
Yeah. It's interesting that too, because it's definitely something Portadown, it has been talked about in a very casual way, but I think it's something that we're going to have to face over the next couple of seasons, just with I think our groundsman on Twitter or something, or maybe on the forum, had said, he's maintaining our pitch, but in his words, the pitch that we have is slowly coming to the end of its life. So, he's doing so much work on it, but maybe not doing, all that he could. And I suppose with grant funding coming from the government and stuff here, it's the time to either decide if you're going to do that, then do it pretty soon. And as you said, we've got, Portadown Youth is a massive organisation, and with ties obviously to the senior club, it is part of the club, but they rent a facility, a 4G facility in the local park, probably 3 or 4 nights a week, and it costs a hell of a lot of money to do that. Whereas if you have your 4G in your stadium, that can be being used during the day and every night of the week. And probably the showgrounds is kind of the same. Our stadium isn't really, it's not opened for the community as such during the day. It's just opened, 20 Saturday afternoons a year and a couple of Tuesday nights, whereas football clubs really should be the absolute hub of the community, because most of them have housing estates all around them because of where they traditionally are. So you want the local people to use it and be part of it, and you're helping the community, but the community's helping the club at the same time. And I think it's getting to the stage where, especially when you look at our postponements this week, controversial maybe for some Portadown fans, but I think it's time for us to really seriously consider going the 4G pitch. In a purist way, I don't like it. I like football being played on grass, but it was a steward up at Crusaders persuaded me actually one day. He just said, listen lad, all the kids are just used to playing on 4G now. They're playing on it at school, they're playing on it at youth level, under 20s, right up, they're playing on 4G, and they're almost not used to playing on a grass pitch. So whenever I thought about that, I sort of thought, that's probably the way forward. And I think NIF will probably have plans to change the season when it starts and when it finishes, calling it a summer league or whatever. I don't really think it is a summer league, but if it's going to end in February and there's a lot of frost and rain about, then I think the only way to do it is possibly have 4G pitches.
No, definitely, I would agree. And as we say, there's a financial aspect of it too, and clubs need all the money they can. So if you're getting X amount of £1,000 coming in through your gate, and even just training facilities, I know with Korean, they only really have the main pitch, and the groundsman doesn't want them training in the main pitch, so they have to go to the university. So you're saving money there as well. So it's all round, it's a win-win, I think.
Even commercially as well, then if you're opened all day, every day, you can have your shop that sells your treats and sweets and fries and cups of tea and cups of coffee, and maybe you get a wee barber shop, takes a unit under the stand. It all adds to that, and I think probably that is the way forward, especially for provincial clubs, where you're maybe not getting as much sponsorship as the city clubs, and you don't have as many wealthy businessmen hanging around on a Saturday. You have to explore absolutely every avenue to progress your club forward. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that over the next couple of years.
You only have to look at Crusaders. I would use them as like the definitive example over here. They've really came on leaps and bounds ever since they got that plastic pitch up there. And I mean, I've played there myself loads of times, and it's a good pitch. And, obviously financially, it's taken them to the next level, because Crusaders were never a club that really competed on a regular basis at the very top of the league, and especially not with the likes of Linfield and Glentoran, financially anyway. And now, they can, to a certain extent, obviously, but Crusaders are the prime example of that. And I'm a purist as well. I think it should be on grass, but the reality is, are the likes of Portadown, Coleraine, some of the provincial clubs, are we going to get left behind if we don't bring in a 4G pitch? And then, as you say as well, with the whole, is there going to be a summer league? Is there not? I think if they did bring in plastic pitches, then you wouldn't even have that problem in the first place.
Yeah, I think so. Stephen, obviously you've seen us and you've seen Ballymena, who we've got on Saturday. What do you think the outcome of that match is on Saturday?
I was very impressed with you when you came to the showgrounds. A few weeks ago, I thought he's a game plan. You stuck to it, and it wasn't just backs to the wall. You came and you played, but you were very strong defensively. I thought Paul Finnegan was excellent that day. He marshaled the defence, and Adam Saleh scored a fantastic goal. So I think you've got the attributes to go and give Ballymena a real game. And I think you've hit them at the right time, because obviously their confidence is going to be very, very low. And the first goal in that game is going to be very, very crucial on Saturday. But I would fancy he's at home to go and get a result.
Yeah, and we've had a week's rest, so I would like to think that the 11 players who start the match will be chomping at the bit, like full of energy. And I know if Lee Bonus starts up front, he'll probably be hunting boys down from 1 minute to the 94th minute, like. So looking forward to it. I think it is a good chance for 3 points on Saturday. Yeah, what do you think, Neil?
Well, what's the weather forecast to be like this weekend?
You see, after today, there's going to be no rain for about 2 weeks, so we're flying here. We could do 3 matches a week.
No soggy corners.
No soggy
quadrants.
Quadrants, sorry.
Quadrants, yeah.
Yeah, I think we do have a decent chance, but again, I wouldn't just discount Ballymena, because on their day they are a good side, and they're going to have to come out of this rut eventually, and hopefully it's not against Portadown, but we do need to start getting points on the board. Even like a couple of wins and suddenly you make a bit of a gap, like and then again there are fixtures over the next few weeks that are winnable for Portadown.
Definitely Coleraine on Tuesday night. Easily win. Stephen's already given us the big build up there, to be honest.
I'm telling you, I'd be very disappointed if we don't win 9-1 after.
Do you know what? You were impressed with us at the showgrounds last, when was it? It was only like 3 weeks ago.
It was not long ago,
yeah. Turnaround.
That was probably the most resilient I have seen us play. But as well as that, the passing and moving was really good, and we created a couple of chances. Obviously, our goalkeeper kept us in it a couple of times. Carney with a couple of, Bradley tried to lob him at one stage, and he sort of got a hand on it. But you were absolutely right, and I was helping out with the commentary that day, and I was almost trying to hide my surprise, because I thought from the start, first 15 or 20 minutes, I was like, "Flip, we're really in this game. This is a really good chance, maybe to get a point or something." So I thought we played very well. But obviously, Coleraine haven't been beaten in 11 games. So Tuesday night at the showgrounds could be very interesting.
Stephen, how long is Ben Doherty out for?
Ben is back running again. So he's probably going to be back quite soon. So he's been out since, what was it, the 2nd of January. So he's come up now to maybe 2 months out. So I would say he'll be nearing a return quite soon. So it's going to be another big boost for us.
Yeah, it'll be a big boost for my fantasy football team as well, because I picked him because he was your penalty taker, and he's always get loads of penalties. So and he got me loads of points. But then obviously I didn't want to sell him there in February, because I thought there was a chance he could be back soon. So, but thankfully he won't be back for the game against Portadown. So.
He's been fantastic for us. He just seems to pop up in the right place, and I know he scores penalties, but he always nicks a goal somewhere. He just has this eye to get in the right place at the right time.
And him at Glenavon reject too. He was too good for Glenavon, to be perfectly honest.
Stephen, obviously the last few years, Coleraine have went from strength to strength. They've won the Irish Cup. There's been a couple of league challenges. I think Linfield were a bit fortunate last season. That if the league got pulled when it did, because Coleraine were hunting them down. I'm going to put you on the spot here. Do you think Coleraine can win the league this season?
I think they've every chance. I think the last 11 games have shown that they've got the quality to go on, kick on. It's going to be interesting to see how Larne and Linfield react from this sort of mini slump. You know what I mean? Because obviously Tuesday night's defeat for Linfield, especially in the manner of it coming in the last minute to your derby rivals, it's going to put a lot of pressure on them, and they've got 3 tough games coming up now. So if come Friday night they play Larne, Coleraine going to the game on Saturday against Warren Point, knowing the outcome of that game, and there's a chance there to cut the gap even further. So it's going to be a very, very interesting run on, but I don't see any reason why they can't.
When you say there about the fixtures, the following on Tuesday there, I think Larne play Crusaders as well. Yeah. So there's the opportunity there for Coleraine, to really.
And Linfield play Glentoran as well that night as well.
Yeah, so that's the thing. You know, if results go their way, which fingers crossed on Tuesday it doesn't, you know, Coleraine could really be in the mix. But they've been slowly going under the radar there for quite a few weeks now, and they've just built a lot of momentum. But no, it's interesting to see, you know, whether or not people are starting to think they can win the league, because, you know, a few months ago, like you say, November, people were like, here, Coleraine aren't even going to make the top 6. And it's like, let's just calm down. There's plenty of games here to go. Do you know what I mean? And everyone was tipping Ballymena at that point. And then finally here we sort of came full circle. It's the complete role reversal. Dave, what do you think for Tuesday? Can Portadown go up there and get another good result?
Firstly, I'm very frustrated that you have to play Coleraine away twice. You know, it's that fixture thing. I want to speak to somebody in Niffle, because I think the supporters should get together and organise the fixtures for the season with all these like double headers, and you know, really we should be playing Coleraine at home before we go and play them away again, for example. There's a lot of that going on, and it's a little bit frustrating. But listen, we got the draw the last time. 11 games unbeaten, hopefully 12 games unbeaten before we get to them on Tuesday night. Are Coleraine going to go the rest of the season without dropping points? Probably not. Can a team like Portadown come and nick a goal and maybe get a draw or a win? I think we can. Probably unlikely. You know, I think we've more chance this Saturday against Ballymena, but I say it every single week, and maybe it should be my own personal motto, but we watch football because anything can happen, you know, and anything can happen in the next couple of matches. The likelihood is Coleraine should beat us. They seem to be clicking very, very well. But we're resolute at the back, Finnegan and McCallum, and if we can get the midfield right again, I suppose the midfield's the place where we have been, it's probably not been steady. You know, there's been boys in and out of the midfield, injured, that kind of thing. And Tippy and Muskelly and the coaches, well, I suppose Tippy picks the team ultimately, but you know, does he start with Bonus? Does he start with Sally? Does he start with Murray and then bring Bonus on? There's all that upfront stuff to consider as well. You know, Bonus, they all do a lot of running, but Bonus really hunts boys down and puts them under pressure to make mistakes, like we've seen against Larne, and even our equaliser against Glentoran the other day. You know, Lee gets the better of Luke McCullough, and then he gets the better of McLean before tucking it away. So the strikers all give you something different as well, whereas Stephen Murray's really good at, number one, running through, but number two, he controls it and holds the play up really well and brings other boys into it. So, you know, Sally probably hasn't been starting as much, but yet he's the one who's got the recent goal up at the showgrounds as well. So there's a lot of choices and variables there, but I think we can go up to Coleraine and be confident enough. You know, like Stephen said already, without relegation, we can go there and just, you know, you could go there and try something different that might get you the win or might get you beaten 5-1, but, you know, you may as well have a go.
We'll have our wing wizard back as well for these sets of games.
True.
He makes a massive difference. So you could see that straight away, you know, even in the game against Glentoran, that we did miss him when he wasn't playing there. So fingers crossed that he can make a difference. Yeah. Super player. I know I say this every week on this show, but he really is outstanding. So fingers crossed he makes a difference. Fellas, thanks very much for coming on the show, Stephen. It's been an absolute blast having you on board. Are you going to be at the Coleraine Portadown game reporting this week?
I'll miss that. I always work on Tuesday night doing the newsletter desk. I have to give Mr. Van Dort a night off, you see. So,
going to Coleraine?
No, he'll probably watch them from home. So I do the paper on the Tuesday night, so I'll be tuning in through radio and social media. But sorry to miss it, because as I say, the last game was an entertaining game, even though it was a bit frustrating for us in the end. Like, you know.
Yeah.
Well, fingers crossed it's a bit more frustrating for you next Tuesday. Listen, Stephen, thanks very much for coming on board. Dave, I'm sure I'll hear from you as always. So thanks very much. Cheers, folks, and I hope you enjoyed the show.